Greetings, timeshare travelers. This is the Timeshare Traveler. Today's video is how to compare the cost of staying in a hotel versus a timeshare. And what I've done is I've taken basically prorated the maintenance as the cost and compared it to other hotels. I have separate videos that tell you how to purchase timeshares at lower costs. I'll put the links for that in the base of the article. And then before I do that, go further and go into the detail, let me tell you a little bit about my channel. I hope you subscribe. Hi, this is Cliff, and I'm your timeshare traveler. The goal of my YouTube channel is improving your timeshare travels. I'll do this through timeshare video reviews, tips for using timeshares, and much, much more. I can be found on Facebook at Timeshare Trav, Twitter at Timeshare Trav, and on the web at www.timesharetraveler.com. And if you like my videos, don't forget to click subscribe below. So, why compare the costs of a hotel to a timeshare? Well, it best is determine how to best spend your travel money, and by knowing what the ongoing costs of a timeshare versus staying in hotels, it'll help you, and that'll actually sort of give you a sense of see if the savings of staying with a timeshare is worth the upfront costs of a timeshare purchase. And I have another video about various ways you can purchase. My experience is that the upfront costs of a timeshare are paid off within 7 years. Actually, it's closer to 5, but I'm being conservative to say 7. I found it to be much faster, but I tend to stay in off-peak periods, so the savings are greater. But if you stay at sort of high demand times, then I think there's a little longer time to pay back. I will say though, if you buy used, the payback is much shorter, and that's mostly because the cost of acquisition is much lower. You do lose some perks and things like that, but that's a trade-off. Again, there's a different, and I'll put this in I'll put a couple examples I have in the body of the video, so you can look at those later. Okay, so on to the next step. How do you compare the price of staying in timeshares and hotels? So what I do is I take the total cost of my maintenance by brand, and I have and then I take that total, like what's my maintenance fees, is there any club dues that go with that, and all that kind of stuff, and I create a total cost. I then take that total cost and divide it by the number of points I have, and I do it by brand because it's different by brand, and then that gives you a cost per point. So then when I book a timeshare, I can determine what the cost is per night on that timeshare. So then I compare that to the cost of staying in a timeshare using Tripadvisor, and I just use Tripadvisor because they typically have hotels.com and all the others embedded in there, so you can get a sense. So it's sort of my, I think, best competition. There may be a better, but that's the one I use. And then I also try to see if I can reduce my vacation costs by cooking in a timeshare, and that's what the advantages are. And that's really so I can vacation more, not because of anything else. You know, if you're willing to cook, and actually I like cooking because you get to talk to the people you care about on vacation while you're cooking. So I think that's a plus, and you shouldn't be as rushed as you might be during your normal life, going to work and all those other things. Okay, so I've included both Hilton timeshare and Hilton hotels, and Worldmark comparisons in comparable hotels close by. And just to be as a comparison, a studio timeshare unit is the most comparable to a hotel room. So if I tried, I'll try to do as fair comparison as I can to try to get like for like, even though a studio often has a kitchen. So I would argue that it's still less expensive in a timeshare, even if the physical size of the room is, like a studio, so it's sort of all encompassing. Anyway, that's how you compare. Okay, now before I go into the actual example, just a few more pieces of information. Why these comparisons? Understanding usage costs of timeshare helps you understand the ongoing costs, so you know what you're getting into. This video is all about trying to educate people on what they're getting into, so when they go into it, I recommend you watch this before you actually go to timeshare presentation. Another option that can stretch things a little bit is sometimes I stay in hotels with kitchens. That allows me to save on eating at restaurants, and that's an alternative. I call that timeshare light. That's just my term, but I will have a video that over time that I'll build out on that. Other thing to know is hotels do it, but they don't talk about it. Timeshares have a season. They have the high season, typically in what I have my spreadsheets. I put that as an H. That's the most desired, when most people want. That's often summer when the kids are out of school. Medium season, that's usually kind of when the weather's not quite as nice, and then low season is usually when people don't want to travel to that area. It isn't the same everywhere because different destinations have different things. In my opinion, if you go in low season, you can have substantial savings, particularly in the timeshares. Okay, looking at the Worldmark example, I have a point chart and maintenance fees these happen to be publicly available. I mean, you can find it if you look. And I have 65,000 Worldmark points, so I will use this as the example. And example one is I'll do a timeshare in Kona versus, in this case, a Holiday Inn room in Kailua Kona, which is the same. And example two is a studio in Oceanside versus hotel in Oceanside, right near the Worldmark Oceanside. It's literally right behind it. So just to walk you through the spreadsheet, you can see my 65,000 points right below the word Worldmark, and my maintenance per 1,000 points is 83.81, and then points for a studio, you can see the high, medium, low, where the high I do a cost per week, and then I divide that by 7 to get the cost per night for the studio. And high season is 95.78. A one bedroom, which is typically can be 10,000, sometimes it's 8,000, but I try to get the best. Not everything is exactly the same. So again, a 10,000 point, whether it be a one bedroom or two bedroom, is $119 a night, and so forth. So hopefully you can understand how this chart works. So now let me talk a little bit about on to the next topic. In a comparable way, I looked at the Hilton. So the point charts are based on my maintenance fees, depending on what I own. Could be the same, so you could do the same. I use first example is a one bedroom at the Hilton Ocean Tower in Waikoloa, Hawaii, and that is renting the same. So I found that on Tripadvisor. The second example is a hotel in Carlsbad, California, right near San Diego, and versus a comparable Hilton Grand Vacations for rent. So if you look at the chart, you can see that the Hilton I have 21,600. That equates to about $150.51 per thousand. The points are not quite the same. 65,000 is probably close to 21.6. But on a studio, that's $73.10 at high season, or $23 at the real low season. One bedroom goes from 103 at the high season in Hawaii. Typically, the medium is really the low season, and that's $73.10 a night. And you can see that for the two bedroom as well. So that's kind of the Hilton example. Okay, the bottom line of all of this is for Worldmark, $120 a night for a one bedroom if you rent the timeshare, versus $228 a night for Holiday Inn Express, and then you can go up from there, but that's I think a fair comparison. Oceanside, California is $84 a night for a studio with a full kitchen, and the hotel right behind it is the Holiday Inn, and that's $135 a night. For Hilton, in Waikoloa, Hawaii, the one bedroom in October for 3,400 points is $73.10 a night. If you rent that same exact timeshare on Tripadvisor, you get the same thing for $200 a night. And in Carlsbad, the one bedroom in February for 3,400 points is also $73.10 versus $236 to rent the Hilton Grand Vacations at Marbrissa, which is a comparable, actually sort of like a sister timeshare to the one that I showed. Anyway, so there you have it. That's the benefits. I'll show you the actual examples of them, so that I can show you the the screenshots of the actual details behind that. But I hope you enjoyed this, and please be sure to subscribe. Now I'll go through the details on the details. Here's an example of the studio in Oceanside, California. We're 7,000 points. That's how I come up with the $84 a night. Here's a sample booking of the Holiday Inn Oceanside right next to the Worldmark and showing the price of $135 a night. Here's a sample booking of the Worldmark Kona, one bedroom for 10,000 points, and that's how it came up with a $120 a night price. Here's a sample booking at the same dates for the Holiday Inn Express for $228 a night. Here's an actual booking of the Hilton Grand Vacations Ocean Tower for $74 a night. That same Ocean Tower room is available on Tripadvisor for $201 a night. Here's an actual booking of the Carlsbad Pacific Palisades Resort for 3,400 points, which is the same as a little over $73. We'll call it 74. Lastly, here's the booking on Tripadvisor for a very similar Hilton Grand Vacations at Marbrissa for $236.